The spaceport was alive with noise and motion. Ships of every shape and size thrummed with energy, docking and taking off under the glowing lights of the artificial sky. Arlen moved carefully through the crowd, his eyes scanning the busy scene. Traders shouted, machines hissed, and alien species of every kind moved through the corridors. Yet, amid all the activity, something small caught his attention. A faint sound, like a child whispering in fear. He followed the noise to a group of cages stacked on the back of a transport vehicle. The cages were sealed, and inside were several small alien creatures. Their eyes were wide with fear, some pressing their faces against the metal bars, silently pleading. One cage in particular drew him in. Inside was a tiny alien girl, no taller than 3 human feet, with luminous green eyes and soft silver hair that shimmered even in the dim light. She looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and terror. Arlen's heart tightened. He had seen suffering before, but something about her struck him differently. She was small, alone, and clearly terrified, yet there was an intelligence in her gaze that seemed far beyond her age. The sign on the transport read, "Property of the Galactic Syndicate, high-value asset." His jaw tightened. The Galactic Syndicate was notorious for capturing beings from all over the galaxy and selling them to the highest bidder. He knew he had to act. But this was no simple rescue. Security drones hovered nearby, scanning the area. Any sudden movement could trigger an alarm. He crouched behind a stack of crates, considering his options. His ship was nearby, a small, fast vessel perfect for quick escapes. But getting her to it without drawing attention would require precision. Arlen watched the guards carefully. They moved with practiced efficiency, checking the cages and speaking in a language he only partially understood. The little girl seemed to sense his presence. Her green eyes met his again, and for a moment the chaotic spaceport faded away. He could see her fear, but also her quiet determination. She did not cry or beg. Instead, she studied him, almost as if she were trying to decide whether he could be trusted. Taking a deep breath, Arlen waited for the right moment. When a pair of guards turned their backs, he slipped from his hiding spot. Moving quickly, he approached the cage. The little girl did not flinch. She reached out a tiny hand as if encouraging him. "Don't worry," he whispered softly. "I'm here to help." With practiced skill, he unlocked the cage. The sound of the lock clicking echoed softly, but fortunately the guards did not notice. The little girl stepped forward cautiously, her movements hesitant but graceful. Arlen held out his hand, and after a moment she took it. Her touch was light but surprisingly strong, almost as if she were testing him. "Lyra," he said, giving her a name as they hurried toward his ship. "That's your name now." She repeated it softly, the word foreign yet melodic on her lips. There was a brief moment of silence between them as they navigated through the crowded spaceport, weaving around merchants and travelers. Arlen kept an eye on the security drones, moving them in ways that made him almost invisible in the chaos. Finally, they reached his ship. It was small but fast and built for stealth. Arlen activated the boarding ramp and they climbed inside. Once the ramp closed, the hum of the ship's engines filled the cabin. The little girl looked around in awe. This was the first time she had seen a human ship from the inside. Screens blinked with maps of the stars, and the soft lighting made the small cabin feel like a safe haven. "You're safe now," Arlen said, settling her into a seat. "No one can touch you here." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shining. She did not speak, but her small hand reached for his in silent gratitude. Arlen felt a surge of emotion. This tiny creature, once trapped and alone, now had a chance at freedom, all because he had chosen to act. The journey through space was quiet at first. Arlen piloted the ship skillfully, avoiding main trade routes to stay hidden from the syndicate. Lyra sat beside him, her eyes wide as she watched the stars pass by. After some time, she finally spoke in her soft, musical voice. "Why? You help me?" she asked, tilting her head. Arlen smiled, though it was tinged with sadness. "Because it's the right thing to do," he replied simply. "No one should be forced to live in fear." She considered this, her green eyes thoughtful. Then she nodded slowly. "I trust you." The words warmed Arlen in a way he hadn't expected. Trust was rare in the galaxy, and yet this small alien girl had given it to him freely. It was a bond that could not be broken easily. Over the next few hours, he tried to make her comfortable. He offered food and water, explaining in simple terms how to operate the small controls in the ship's cabin. Lyra picked up quickly, surprising him with her intelligence. She watched, learned, and even offered suggestions that improved his piloting. As they traveled, Arlen began to share stories about his own life, about the worlds he had visited, the dangers he had faced, and the choices he had made. Lyra listened intently, sometimes asking questions that revealed her curiosity and sharp mind. Despite everything she had endured, there was a spark in her that refused to be dimmed. Hours turned into days, and the initial tension between them softened. They shared quiet meals, watched passing star systems, and even laughed at small jokes Arlen made about the peculiarities of alien cultures. Lyra's laughter was rare but beautiful, a sound that seemed to brighten the cabin even in the vast emptiness of space. One night, as they drifted through a quiet sector far from any known trade routes, Lyra spoke again. I want to help others," she said softly. "Like you saved me." Arlen was taken aback. The idea of a child thinking about helping others, especially after all she had suffered, was remarkable. "You will," he said carefully. "But first you need to be safe and learn. There's a lot you can do when the time comes." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. "I will learn," she promised. In the quiet of the ship, Arlen realized something important. This little girl, once a slave, was extraordinary. She had survived what most could not, retained her hope, and even begun to dream beyond her circumstances. He had rescued her from the syndicate, but in truth, he felt as if he had discovered a new kind of life, one full of potential, courage, and intelligence beyond what he had expected. As the ship glided through the darkness, Arlen knew that this was only the beginning of their journey. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but together, they would navigate it. He would protect her, guide her, and help her grow, and somehow, he felt, Lyra would change more than just her own life. She might change the lives of many. For now, though, they rested. Lyra curled up in her seat and Arlen kept watch at the controls. The stars stretched endlessly outside, a reminder of the freedom they now shared. He smiled quietly, knowing that even in a universe full of danger, a single act of compassion could create ripples far beyond what anyone could imagine. And in the quiet hum of the ship, the little alien girl who had once been enslaved closed her eyes, safe for the first time in her life, dreaming of a future where she could be free and maybe one day more than that. The stars stretched endlessly before them as Arlen piloted the small ship through uncharted space. Outside the windows, streaks of light from distant nebulae painted the darkness with soft colors, but the serenity of the view was deceptive. The galaxy was vast, and within it, dangers lurked at every turn. Pirates, bounty hunters, and syndicate agents prowled the space lanes, seeking profit or revenge. For Arlen and Lyra, the journey to safety would not be easy. Lyra sat beside him, her small hands folded neatly in her lap. She had grown more comfortable since the rescue, though she still flinched at sudden noises or the sight of other beings. But her green eyes were sharp, taking in every detail of the ship's controls, the blinking lights, and the data screens. "You're watching everything very closely," Arlen said, glancing at her. "Most people get overwhelmed, but you notice everything." Lyra tilted her head, a thoughtful expression crossing her delicate features. "I want to learn," she said simply. "I want to know how to be safe." Arlen nodded. "That's smart. Safety is important, especially out here. The galaxy can be unpredictable." He showed her the navigation controls, explaining in simple terms how to set a course, avoid collisions, and detect approaching ships. Lyra listened intently, asking questions that revealed a depth of understanding far beyond her years. When Arlen demonstrated how to reroute power to the shields in case of an attack, she quickly grasped the concept and even suggested a small adjustment that improved efficiency. "You've got a sharp mind," Arlen said, impressed. "I think you'll be ready to handle more than you realize." Lyra smiled faintly. "I want to help," she whispered. Days passed and the journey grew more challenging. They traversed regions where gravitational storms twisted space itself, forcing Arlen to maneuver the ship with precision. Lyra watched closely, calling out suggestions and warning him about approaching asteroid fields. Her insights often saved them from collisions, and Arlen began to see her not as a child in need of protection alone, but as a partner in survival. One evening, while passing through a quiet sector, Their sensors detected an unknown vessel approaching rapidly. Arlen's heart tightened. He recognized the signature instantly: Syndicate bounty hunters. Their ships were sleek, fast, and heavily armed, designed to capture fugitives and deliver them to the highest bidder. "We have company," he said calmly, though his mind raced. "Lyra, I need you to help me." Her eyes widened, but she nodded. "What should I do?" "Watch the sensors," Arlen replied. "Tell me every movement you see." Lyra leaned forward, her small hands moving across the panels with surprising confidence. "Two ships," she said, her voice steady. "Approaching from starboard. They are fast. They'll intercept if we don't change course." Arlen adjusted the controls, weaving the ship through a narrow corridor of debris. Lyra's observations were precise, guiding him through twists and turns that would have confused most seasoned pilots. The bounty hunters fired, but the ship's small size and Arlen's skilled maneuvers kept them out of harm's way. "You're amazing," Arlen said, glancing at her. "I couldn't have done this without you." Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. I want to be helpful," she replied quietly. The chase continued for hours, taking them through asteroid belts, around small moons, and into sectors so remote that few had ever ventured there. Lyra's intelligence and quick thinking kept them one step ahead. At one point, she suggested using a nearby gas cloud to hide their ship. Arlen followed her advice, and the bounty hunters passed by without noticing them. When the danger finally passed, Lyra leaned back in her seat, exhausted but exhilarated. "Did we survive?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Arlen laughed softly. "Yes, we survived. You helped save us both." That night, as the ship glided through the quiet void, Arlen and Lyra shared a simple meal. Lyra had grown curious about human food, and though she had never tasted it before, she smiled at each bite. Arlen told her stories of planets he had visited, strange creatures he had met, and the countless adventures of his life. Lyra listened with rapt attention, her green eyes sparkling with wonder. "You've seen so much," she said finally. "Do you ever get tired?" Arlen shook his head. "No, I love seeing new worlds, meeting new people. There's so much to learn, and now I get to learn with you." Lyra thought about this for a moment. "I want to learn everything," she whispered, "so I can help more people." Arlen felt a surge of pride. "And you will," he said. "But it takes time. You're young, but your mind, it's sharper than most adults I've met. One day, you'll do great things." The next morning, they entered a sector known for its quiet trade routes, hoping to find supplies. They landed on a small outpost planet, where vendors sold food, fuel, and minor equipment. Lyra followed Arlen through the crowded market, her eyes wide as she observed the different species and cultures. She asked questions about everything: the colors of alien fruits, the shapes of buildings, even the languages spoken around her. "You notice so much," Arlen said, watching her. "It's good. It means you're paying attention." Lyra nodded, her small shoulders straight with determination. "I must be ready," she said simply. While Arlen refueled the ship and repaired minor damages, Lyra wandered toward a small group of alien children playing nearby. At first she hesitated, unsure how to approach. But then one of the children waved at her. Lyra smiled faintly and joined them, discovering quickly that despite the differences in species, they could communicate through gestures, sounds, and laughter. Arlen watched from a distance, a quiet smile on his face. Lyra was growing, not just in skill but in confidence. She had survived terror, traveled through dangerous space, and now was learning the joys of simple friendship. That night, as they rested aboard the ship, Lyra spoke again. "Arlen, when we are far from danger, will there be others like me?" "What do you mean?" Arlen asked, curious. "Other aliens who need help?" "People who are afraid," she said. Her voice was small but firm. "I want to help them. I don't want anyone to be alone like I was." Arlen's heart swelled. "You have a kind heart," he said. "And you're very smart. One day you could help many, not just a few. But first, you need to grow, learn, and be safe." Lyra nodded. "I will," she whispered, her eyes closing as she curled up in her seat. Arlen stayed awake, keeping watch over the ship and over her. He reflected on the journey so far, the dangers, the challenges, and the bond forming between them. Lyra was more than a child he had rescued. She was a being of immense potential, a bright spark in the dark galaxy. He felt a sense of responsibility, but also hope. The galaxy was unpredictable, full of threats and surprises, but together, he and Lyra had already proven that courage, intelligence, and compassion could overcome even the most dangerous challenges. Arlen knew the journey ahead would be harder, but he also knew that with Lyra's sharp mind and brave heart, they could face anything. And in the quiet of the ship, as stars streaked past in silent brilliance, Lyra dreamed of a future where she could make a difference not just for herself, but for all who had suffered and been forgotten. For the first time in her life, she felt the spark of hope ignite within her, a hope that could grow into something powerful, something extraordinary. After weeks of careful travel through quiet and uncharted space, Arlen and Lyra arrived at a secluded planet known only to a few. It was a hidden world, far from the Syndicate's reach, where freed alien slaves had found refuge. The planet's surface was covered with rolling green hills, sparkling rivers, and forests that shimmered under a soft golden sun. It was peaceful, almost magical, and in stark contrast to the harsh chaos of the spaceport from which Lyra had been rescued. As the small ship landed on a plateau overlooking a sparkling valley, Lyra's eyes widened in wonder. She had never seen a place so free, so alive. Her small hands gripped Arlen's arm, and for the first time she felt a sense of belonging. "Is this safe?" she whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. Arlen smiled. "Yes, this is safe. For now, at least. Here, people like you can live without fear." They stepped out of the ship, and Lyra immediately noticed the inhabitants, aliens of all shapes and sizes, walking, working, and laughing together. There were creatures with shimmering wings, beings with scales that reflected the sunlight, and gentle giants who carefully tended to gardens and animals. Lyra's green eyes sparkled as she observed the harmony around her. A tall, kind-looking alien approached them, bowing slightly. "Welcome," the alien said in a melodic voice. "I am Tyrion, one of the guardians of this sanctuary. You are safe here, travelers." Arlen introduced Lyra. "This is Lyra. She has been through much, but she is brave and strong." Tyrion nodded, his eyes full of warmth. "Then she will fit in well. We welcome those who have suffered, and we teach them to live freely." Lyra looked around, still unsure but curious. She noticed a group of young aliens playing a game that involved teamwork, strategy, and clever thinking. Her eyes lit up. She had always loved learning, and here she could learn without fear. Over the next few days, Lyra explored the sanctuary with Arlen. She met others who had been freed from slavery, some older, some younger, all carrying stories of hardship. Yet despite their pasts, they were hopeful, working together to build a peaceful life. Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had survived fear, and now she was surrounded by hope. One afternoon, while walking along a sparkling river, Lyra noticed a small group struggling to repair a collapsed bridge. The bridge was made of strong alien materials, but without proper knowledge, they could not fix it. Lyra approached, her green eyes bright with ideas. "Maybe if you use the longer beams this way," she suggested, pointing with her small hands. "The structure will hold better, and it will be easier to balance." The others paused and looked at her. A young alien smiled. "You are clever. That is a very good idea." Lyra helped them carefully, guiding each step. The bridge was soon repaired, stronger than before. She felt a thrill of pride and accomplishment. For the first time, she realized that even someone small could make a big difference. Arlen watched quietly from the edge of the forest. He could see that Lyra's mind was extraordinary. She was not just intelligent, she was compassionate, observant, and fearless in her desire to help others. He had rescued her, but now it was clear that she was ready to inspire those around her. That evening, the sanctuary held a small gathering to welcome them. Lyra stood beside Arlen, observing the alien leaders as they spoke of hope, freedom, and unity. Lyra felt a deep connection to the community and a strange pull in her heart. She wanted to do more than just belong. She wanted to help lead, to make sure no one else suffered as she had. As days passed, she quietly began to teach and guide younger aliens, sharing strategies for problem-solving and teamwork. Her sharp mind quickly gained the respect of the sanctuary's inhabitants. Even the older aliens, who had years of experience, came to listen when she spoke. One evening, while Arlen was repairing some minor damage on the ship, Tyrion approached Lyra. "You have a gift," he said softly. "Not many can inspire others the way you do. You are wise beyond your years, and you have a heart full of courage. You may not see it now, but one day you will lead many. Lyra's eyes widened. Lead others? She asked, a mix of surprise and curiosity in her voice. Yes, Tyrion replied. Your experiences, your courage, and your intelligence make you special. You understand fear, but you also understand hope. That is a rare combination. Many will follow you when the time comes. Lyra thought about the words carefully. She remembered the fear she had felt in the cages, the desperation and the small spark of hope Arlen had given her. Could she really lead others? Could she help them in ways even bigger than repairing bridges or teaching games? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of alarms. Red lights flashed across the sanctuary and a deep warning tone filled the air. Arlen ran toward the command center with Lyra close behind. Tyrion explained quickly, Syndicate scouts have found our location. They are not far, and they will try to capture anyone they can. Lyra's heart raced, but she did not panic. She looked around at the sanctuary, at the people she had come to care for. Then she stepped forward, her small hands clenched into fists. Listen to me, she said clearly and confidently, her voice ringing across the open space. We can protect ourselves. Everyone follow my instructions carefully. We will use the terrain to our advantage. Move to the high ground, keep the children safe, and I will guide you. Arlen stopped in his tracks, amazed. Lyra had taken control with a calm authority that commanded attention. The sanctuary's inhabitants listened without question, following her directions. Lyra led them to the hills and forests surrounding the valley, creating clever hiding spots and using natural barriers to slow any approaching danger. When the Syndicate scouts arrived, they found the sanctuary nearly empty. Lyra's strategies had worked perfectly, keeping everyone safe while leaving no trace for the enemies to follow. The scouts eventually gave up and retreated, unable to capture a single inhabitant. After the danger had passed, the aliens gathered around Lyra, their eyes filled with admiration. You saved us all, one of the elders said. You have a gift, young one. You are meant to do great things. Lyra looked at Arlen, who smiled and nodded encouragingly. She realized in that moment that she had grown stronger, braver and wiser than she had ever imagined. She had faced danger, guided others, and emerged victorious, not with weapons, but with her mind, courage, and heart. That night, as the sun set over the golden hills, Lyra sat beside Arlen, looking out over the sanctuary. I think I can do more, she whispered. I want to help even more people, not just here. Arlen placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. I know you can, he said softly. You have already proven that courage and intelligence can make a difference. The galaxy is big, and there are many who need someone like you. You are ready, Lyra. You just have to believe it yourself. Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a warmth in her chest she had never known before. For the first time, she truly understood the meaning of hope. She had survived, learned, and helped others. And now she could begin to dream bigger, dreams of freedom, justice, and leadership. The stars began to appear in the sky, shimmering like tiny diamonds above the sanctuary. Lyra's mind raced with possibilities, but one thought stood out clearly. She would not stop at saving herself or her small community. She would grow, learn, and one day she would help all who had suffered. She would become a beacon of hope for the galaxy. And in that quiet, hidden world under the golden sun and starry sky, the little alien girl who had once been enslaved felt a spark ignite within her. A spark that could one day shine brighter than any star she had ever seen. After weeks at the hidden sanctuary, Lyra began to think about her homeworld. It had been a place of fear and oppression under the rule of corrupt leaders allied with the Syndicate. She had escaped once, but she knew there were countless others who had not been as fortunate. She could not ignore them. Arlen watched her carefully as she made her decision. You're serious about this, he said softly. You want to go back? Lyra nodded, her green eyes shining with determination. I have learned so much here, she said. I understand people, strategy, and courage. I can help them now. I have to. Arlen studied her for a moment. She was still small, still young, but her presence carried a quiet authority that could not be ignored. Then I will help you, he said. But you will lead. I will follow your guidance. With careful planning, they left the sanctuary and set course for Lyra's homeworld. The journey was long and filled with quiet tension. The Syndicate still hunted for escaped slaves, and news of their departure from the sanctuary could reach them at any moment. Lyra spent the time learning more about the galaxy, studying maps and planning her approach. She spoke with Arlen about her ideas, refining strategies and considering every detail. When they arrived, the planet looked almost peaceful from orbit. Cities gleamed under the sun and people moved about their lives, unaware that many of them were oppressed or living in fear. Lyra's heart tightened as she remembered her own past. She had been small and powerless once, but she had learned, she had grown, and now she had a plan. Arlen piloted the ship to a secluded landing site on the outskirts of the capital city. From there, Lyra could observe and gather information without being noticed. She studied the movements of the city guards, the patterns of the officials, and the routines of the citizens. Slowly, she began to understand the weaknesses in the leadership that had kept her people under control. Lyra moved carefully, speaking quietly with sympathetic citizens and listening to their stories. She learned who could be trusted and who had been too fearful to help. She began forming small alliances, choosing individuals who were courageous, intelligent, and kind. Each person she recruited brought unique skills, from strategy to communication, that would help her unite the people. One evening, as the twin moons of the planet rose in the sky, Lyra gathered her small group of allies. "We cannot fight with weapons alone," she said, her voice firm and confident. "We must use our minds, our knowledge, and our courage. We will inspire the people, unite them, and show them that freedom is possible." Her allies nodded, inspired by her words. Though small, her presence carried weight, and her vision of hope began to spread quietly through the city. The next weeks were filled with careful action. Lyra used intelligence and observation to outmaneuver the corrupt leaders. She encouraged citizens to speak up, to help each other, and to see the power they had when united. Small acts of kindness and clever strategies slowly weakened the influence of the ruling officials. Lyra's reputation grew quietly but steadily. Arlen watched with admiration as Lyra's confidence and authority blossomed. She was no longer the frightened little girl he had rescued. She was a leader, thoughtful and brave, inspiring loyalty and hope in others. The turning point came when a corrupt official attempted to capture a group of citizens secretly aiding Lyra. She had anticipated the move, and with careful planning, she led the citizens through hidden tunnels and safe paths, avoiding detection. When the official discovered their absence, Lyra had already spread the news of their escape, showing the people that the leaders were not all powerful. Word of Lyra's cleverness and bravery spread quickly. People who had been afraid to act began to gather, following her vision of freedom and fairness. Lyra continued to guide them, teaching strategies, building trust, and showing that change was possible. One evening, standing on a hill overlooking the city, Lyra addressed a growing crowd. Her small figure seemed fragile, but her voice carried clearly across the square. "We have been afraid for too long," she said. "We have been told we are weak, but we are not. We are strong, brave, and intelligent. Together, we can create a future where no one lives in fear." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising like a wave of hope. Lyra's heart swelled. For the first time, she realized the power she had, not through force, but through courage, intelligence, and compassion. The corrupt leaders soon realized that their control was slipping. They attempted to intimidate Lyra's growing network, but she anticipated their moves. Using clever tactics, she exposed their corruption, showed the people the truth, and inspired them to take action without violence. Arlen stood nearby, amazed at her strategic brilliance. "You've done more than I imagined," he whispered. "You've united them without a single battle." Lyra smiled faintly, though her eyes were serious. "This is just the beginning," she said. "We need to show them that leadership can be fair and just, that we can build a better future." As the days passed, Lyra's influence expanded. Communities previously divided by fear and mistrust began to work together. She encouraged education, cooperation, and the sharing of knowledge. Citizens who had once been powerless found their voices and joined in shaping the future. Even the city guards, who had been loyal to corrupt leaders, began to see the wisdom in Lyra's vision. Some quietly joined her cause, helping to maintain order while protecting the people. Others, inspired by her courage, spoke out against injustice. The final challenge came when the ruling council of the planet, desperate to maintain control, attempted a public confrontation. Lyra met them in a grand hall filled with citizens and officials. She stood tall, her small figure commanding attention. With calm reasoning, she exposed their misdeeds, offered solutions for fairness, and appealed to the people's desire for a just society. The council, unable to argue against her logic and the support of the citizens, was forced to step down. The people, empowered by Lyra's leadership, celebrated their newfound freedom. For the first time, the planet's inhabitants felt that change was possible, and that they could shape their own destiny. Arlen watched as Lyra was lifted on the shoulders of the people, not as a conqueror but as a guide, a teacher, and a symbol of hope. She had grown from a frightened little girl into a leader whose intelligence, courage, and compassion inspired an entire planet. That night, as the city celebrated under the twin moons, Lyra and Arlen stood quietly on a balcony overlooking the scene. "You've done it," Arlen said softly. "You've changed everything." Lyra looked at the people below, her heart full. "We've done it," she corrected gently. "I could not have done it alone. Everyone played a part. I only guided them," Arlen smiled. "You guided them brilliantly. The galaxy is lucky to have someone like you." Lyra's green eyes shone with quiet determination. "This is only the beginning. There are others out there who need help. I want to learn more, grow more, and help more." Arlen placed a hand on her shoulder, proud beyond words. "Then I will continue to be by your side. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will follow. You have a gift, Lyra, and it will change the galaxy." As the twin moons cast their silver light over the city, Lyra realized something important. Leadership was not about power or strength. It was about courage, intelligence, and the ability to inspire others. And with those qualities, even a small girl could change the world. Lyra had risen from slavery to become a symbol of hope, proving that one life, nurtured with care, courage, and wisdom, could transform an entire civilization. The galaxy would remember her, not as a child who had once been helpless, but as a queen in the making, whose vision, heart, and mind could shape a future brighter than the stars themselves. The city was alive with excitement. Banners of gold and green fluttered in the soft breeze, and the streets were filled with citizens from all corners of the planet. They had gathered to witness a historic moment, the coronation of Lyra, the little alien girl who had once been enslaved, now rising to become a queen. Lyra stood at the top of a grand staircase, her small figure dressed in ceremonial robes that shimmered in the sunlight. Her green eyes, once wide with fear, now held a calm confidence and quiet determination. She glanced at Arlen, who stood at her side, offering a reassuring smile. Without his guidance, she knew she could not have come this far. But today was her moment, and she had earned it through courage, intelligence, and compassion. The High Council, once corrupt and feared, had stepped down peacefully, inspired by Lyra's vision and the loyalty of the citizens. Now they presented her with the symbols of leadership: a small crown made of rare metals and gemstones, a scepter that represented wisdom, and a cloak that symbolized responsibility. Tyrion, the elder from the hidden sanctuary, stepped forward to speak. "Lyra," he said, his melodic voice carrying across the crowd, "you have grown from a child who endured suffering into a leader who inspires hope. You have united the people, guided them with wisdom, and shown courage in the face of danger. Today you are more than a queen. You are a symbol of what is possible when compassion and intelligence lead the way." Lyra knelt as the crown was placed on her head. She felt the weight of responsibility, but it did not frighten her. Instead, it reminded her of everything she had learned, the kindness of those who helped her, the courage she discovered within herself, and the trust placed in her by countless people. She rose, standing tall before the crowd, ready to speak. "People of our world," Lyra began, her voice steady and clear. "Today is not only my day, it is the day we reclaim our future together. We have suffered, we have feared, and we have doubted, but we have also learned, grown, and proven that courage and intelligence can overcome even the greatest obstacles." The citizens listened intently, their eyes shining with hope. Lyra continued, "I was once a child who did not know freedom. I was small, alone, and afraid. But one person saw potential in me, believed in me, and helped me find my strength. That belief changed my life. And now, I will dedicate my life to ensuring that no one else feels powerless or alone. We will build a society where kindness, courage, and wisdom guide our decisions. We will help those who are in need, educate those who wish to learn, and protect those who cannot protect themselves." A cheer rose from the crowd, echoing across the city and into the surrounding valleys. Lyra felt a warmth in her heart, a mix of pride, hope, and responsibility. She had become more than she ever imagined, She was a queen, yes, but also a guide, a teacher, and a symbol of what could be achieved when intelligence and compassion were combined. Arlen stood beside her, quietly watching the scene. He remembered the first time he had rescued Lyra from the transport cages. She had been small, frightened, and unsure of herself. Now she commanded attention and respect from thousands of beings united under her vision. He realized that humanity's ability to show kindness, courage, and trust could create extraordinary change, not only in humans but across the galaxy. After the coronation, Lyra walked through the city, greeting her people. She listened to their concerns, offered solutions, and encouraged them to work together. Children followed her, eyes wide with admiration, and adults spoke to her with respect and trust. Everywhere she went, she saw the result of her guidance, the spark of hope she had ignited in their hearts. Later, she visited the hidden sanctuary where she had learned so much. The elders and inhabitants greeted her warmly, celebrating her success. Lyra knelt before them, expressing her gratitude. "I am who I am because of all of you," she said. "You taught me courage, strategy, and the importance of helping others. I will carry these lessons with me always." Tyrion smiled. "And you have used those lessons wisely. You have grown beyond what we could have imagined. Your heart, mind, and courage will guide not only your people but the galaxy itself." Lyra spent the next weeks implementing changes across the planet. She established councils to give citizens a voice, encouraged education and scientific advancement, and created programs to protect the vulnerable. Her leadership was not about power. It was about service, guidance, and inspiration. The people responded with loyalty, respect, and a willingness to work together. One day, as she walked through a bustling marketplace, a young alien approached her. "Queen Lyra," the child said, eyes wide, "I want to help people too, like you do. How can I learn?" Lyra knelt to meet the child's gaze. "Start by being kind, brave, and curious," she said. "Learn from those around you. Help whenever you can, and never be afraid to ask questions. That is how change begins." The child nodded, a small smile spreading across their face. Lyra realized that this was exactly what she wanted, to inspire others, to guide them, and to show that intelligence, courage, and compassion could change lives. Arlen, watching from a distance, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had saved Lyra once, but she had saved herself in ways that were far greater than he could have imagined. Her rise from a frightened child to a respected queen was a testament to what could be achieved when one was nurtured with care, taught to think, and inspired to believe in oneself. As the planet celebrated its newfound freedom, Lyra looked to the stars. Beyond her world, countless others still suffered, enslaved, or forgotten. She understood that her journey was only beginning. With her mind, heart, and courage, she would continue to help those in need, teaching them that intelligence, hope, and compassion could change the galaxy. One evening, she stood atop a hill overlooking the city, Arlen by her side. The twin moons cast a soft glow over the streets, and the people moved with purpose and joy. Lyra's green eyes reflected the light, but also determination. "Arlen," she said softly, "thank you for believing in me, for helping me see what I could become." Arlen smiled gently. "It was never just me, Lyra, it was always you. I only gave you a chance, you made the rest happen." Lyra nodded, understanding the truth in his words. She had grown because she chose to learn, to help, and to lead. She had survived fear and emerged stronger, wiser, and braver than anyone had expected. From the hidden sanctuary to the heart of her homeworld, Lyra had changed the lives of countless beings. She had proven that even the smallest, most powerless creature could rise to greatness through courage, intelligence, and compassion. Humanity's influence had guided her, but her choices, her bravery, and her vision had shaped her destiny. And so, under the glow of the twin moons, Queen Lyra stood tall, not as a ruler who demanded obedience, but as a guide, teacher, and symbol of hope. The galaxy would remember her, not as a child who had once been enslaved, but as a queen who showed that courage, intelligence, and compassion could change the universe itself. Lyra smiled, looking toward the stars. Her journey had begun in fear and captivity, but it had led to freedom, leadership, and the power to inspire, and she knew deep in her heart that this was only the beginning. The galaxy awaited, full of lives to touch, minds to enlighten, and hearts to inspire. For Queen Lyra, the little alien girl who had once been powerless, had become a beacon of hope, a reminder that one being, no matter how small, could change the world.